What if Edmonton had the power to invest in its own future without constantly relying on tax increases or unpredictable government funding? What if we had a long term financial strategy that ensured we could build the roads, transit, and services we need without scrambling for money every single budget cycle? Hey folks, Aaron Paquette here. Later this week, I'll be bringing forward a motion, or at least a subsequent motion, to create a financial sustainability framework, a plan to make Edmonton's finances stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for the future. Now, it's a little bit different than what we've seen before, and that difference may seem subtle, but it is the change maker. So first, let's clear something up. This isn't about raising taxes, about cutting services, or making immediate financial decisions. This is about getting ahead of financial pressures before they become problems. Right now, Edmonton relies heavily on property taxes and grants from other levels of government. Now, these funding sources are essential, but they come with challenges. Property taxes provide a stable revenue stream, but we need to be mindful of fairness, affordability, and tax tolerance in these tough times. And provincial and federal grants help fund big projects like transit and infrastructure, but they can be unpredictable. Sometimes they get reduced, delayed, or tied to political decisions outside of our control. Now, another note, one of the things that drove me to take this route is that perfect storm that we've seen in recent years, and that is deep provincial cuts to municipalities, both operating and capital, coming out of COVID, coming out of an inflationary period, and now looking at tariffs and economic and political instability around the world. So, what's the solution? Well, we need a stronger long-term plan that explores new tools and new strategies so we have options and don't have to rely on short-term fixes. Now, this motion directs city administration to bring back a financial sustainability framework that explores ways to, one, diversify revenue sources, finding stable, responsible ways to fund Edmonton's future. Two, to maximize city assets, making better use of city-owned land, city-owned buildings, and infrastructure to generate more value for Edmontonians. And three, attract investment. So basically strengthening Edmonton's economy so businesses thrive and contribute to a growing tax base. And four, to leverage grants more effectively, taking full advantage of funding and those funding opportunities while keeping long-term financial stability in mind. Now you could say, well, Councillor Paquette, Aaron, we're already doing all of this. Yes and no, and that's a very political answer, I understand. But the yes is that, yeah, of course we are always doing these types of things. But no, in that we've never had a primary focus. And I'm going to get to that. And that's actually, it's the tentpole of this whole thing. So this is not about rushing into major policy changes because we don't need to. It's about getting a complete, well-researched picture of what's possible so we can make informed decisions about Edmonton's future. So what kinds of ideas might come out of this? Well, here's that tentpole idea I was telling you about, a legacy savings fund. So we've got the Edtel Endowment Fund. That already exists. Edmonton sold its telephone company in 1995, and that created a permanent investment fund that now generates over $50 million per year for the city. Now, it's at about $1 billion. And to put it into perspective, if it was at, say, $4 billion, $5 billion, we would have a 0% tax increase this year, just because of the dividend. Now, could we apply a similar strategy to other city assets to create a financial cushion for future generations? Yes. But could we also look at all of our lines of business at the city and all of our fiscal and economic efforts and say, hey, these are all great and we're working really hard on them and some of them are doing well. But if we had a North Star, a guiding purpose, which is to create a stronger and larger fund, what would that look like, right? So, what if, let me put it this way. Edmonton owns thousands of acres of land, much of it underutilized. Other cities lease or sell underused land strategically to generate revenue while still controlling smart development. We do that too. But could we do it better? And would we do it better if we had a larger goal? For example, smarter investment in growth. Like instead of just offering tax breaks to businesses, could Edmonton take a stake in key projects and earn a return on investment? Can we do both? Look, some cities do this successfully, generating new revenue without new taxes. So, for example, we give out grants all the time. But what if, in giving out those grants, we got a return when a company reached a certain valuation, or if they moved out of the city? Right? So the more we attract businesses and industries, which is another thing that we should be doing a little bit more consistently, the more Edmonton's tax base grows. So, and that reduces the financial pressure on individual homeowners and small businesses when it comes to taxes. Now, the goal isn't to reinvent the wheel here. It's to take what works, both here and in other cities, and build a stronger, more resilient Edmonton, as I've been saying. So there are so many ways to do it if we are more intentional about the outcome, because the mayor, put forward a motion on improving our industrial attraction, and I think that's great, and I think we're going to do that. So, I know some of my colleagues may be wondering, does this mean we're looking into a new financial strategy right away or locking into one? No. This is about researching options and creating a roadmap. Does this mean we're selling off city assets or privatizing services? No. This is about making sure we get the most value out of what we already own. Does this mean we're trying to avoid using taxes to fund public services? No. Taxes are essential. We all know that. But we need a balanced approach that ensures fairness and sustainability in the long term, and as soon as possible, really. Now, this isn't, though, about short-term fixes. It's about long-term stability. A strong, sustainable financial plan means we can invest in better transit, safer communities, and new infrastructure without creating unnecessary financial strain. So, a financially strong Edmonton benefits everyone. I think we can all see that. It means we can plan ahead with confidence rather than reacting to budget shortfalls year after year, which is something we really need to get out of. The problem with politics is that often it's just a 4-year vision. And as that 4-year term compacts, that vision gets shorter and shorter. We need to be looking beyond single terms in order to create a better economic situation for all Edmontonians, especially for those growing up right now who are finding it hard to make ends meet or even buy a home, right? So city administration will bring back their recommendations next year if this motion is successful. And when they do, there will be opportunities for public input. So let's start this conversation now. Let's plan for the Edmonton we want, not just for today, but for the next generation, because there is a chance that this motion fails, that it doesn't pass. That happens. That's council procedure. That's what we do. We debate ideas, and sometimes they pass, sometimes they don't. If it fails, it would not be able to be brought back to council for another year. So I'm hoping that my colleagues see that there may be some merit in exploring this idea. It doesn't lock us into anything, and it doesn't waylay what we're already doing, and it's not going to duplicate what we're already doing. It is another way to look at what we're doing that creates a much stronger perspective and way forward. If our aim is just to make ends meet year after year after year, then what we're doing right now is fine. If our goal is to grow little bit by little bit by little bit and implement a bunch of strategies in order to see that happen, that's fine. It's all great. But if our goal is to find a measure of self-sufficiency, a measure of independence, and a measure of financial security that we've never experienced as a municipality, then would there be value in simply exploring this idea? Now, it may turn out that we explore it and we say, you know what we've got right now is going to do the job. However, if we just ask for this simple report and it comes back and it says, it's really a good thing we looked at this, because look at all of the different ways that we could maximize what we're doing, that we could optimize what we're doing, that we could become more efficient, that we could become more aggressive and assertive in the marketplace. Here's a way that we could augment Edmonton's reputation globally. Here's how we can build on what we've got. See, I'm going to give you a really quick example of how we did something like this that worked out really, really well for the city of Edmonton. And that is the city plan. And it started many years ago. And the problem was that we were trying to solve is that there were multiple policies and documents and approaches towards city building, especially when it comes to development and zoning and all those sorts of things. So what the city did is it simplified all of that, got rid of a whole bunch of stuff that we shouldn't have been doing in the first place, brought in things that were better practices, and really streamlined our processes for zoning and planning. And that's called the city plan, and it is something that every municipality in North America is taking a look at now, saying, we want to do that too. What was missed in that conversation, that was always intended to be in that conversation, and we basically have what we need to continue that conversation already through the initial work that was done, is the analog to that city plan and development and zoning and whatnot, but when it comes to our fiscal and economic policies, a money plan, if you will. And if we can get that right, then we can match the $16 billion of aspirations in the city plan with the actual strategy to make it happen using our finances and to set us up for long-term success, and especially for our children. And that's the last word, is that this is a 10-year motion. If it comes back, it'll be a 10-year effort, maybe 15, maybe 20, 30, 50. But if it begins now, we will already get the reputational uplift. We will already get the interest. We may even get some provincial partnership and federal partnership. This is fairly unique for a big city. And if we can start to implement some of this stuff just by taking a look at it, and that's all the motion is saying, let's take a look at it, then we may discover things that no one else has ever actually discovered, because we're looking in an area that is very often not explored. So I hope that makes sense. That's the explainer. That's what I'm up to this week at council. And, if my colleagues, are willing, we may be moving forward on this. If they're not, well, that gives time for the city to continue to have these conversations. But my hope is that by looking at all the factors that are beleaguering municipalities today, and specifically Edmonton, that we see there's literally no harm in doing this. In fact, there could only be benefits. It doesn't duplicate. It doesn't ask for any action right now, but it's a beginning. All right. Well, I've spoken long enough. Take care. Aaron out.